8 months off the floor, fighting through a flu, playing in her very first international start for Team USA, and Caitlin Clark just led every single player on every single national team in every country in the entire FIBA 2026 qualifying tournament in plus-minus. Not just Team USA, every country, every roster, every player. And while that was happening, the head coach who had been limiting her touches, managing her minutes, and deflecting questions about her role just vanished. No official explanation, no announcement. One game she's there, the next game, a different coach is running the rotation, and Team USA wins by 55 points. That timing is not a coincidence. And today, we are breaking down every single piece of it. What you're watching unfold in this tournament is a story in 2 parts. The first part is the statistical demolition of every criticism Caitlin Clark's detractors spent 8 months constructing. The second part is the coaching situation that USA Basketball has refused to explain in plain language, where Kara Lawson went, why Nate Tibbetts is suddenly running the offense, and whether fan and media pressure after the Puerto Rico game actually forced an organizational decision that nobody is officially admitting to. Because the breadcrumbs here lead somewhere very specific, and the box scores are making the argument better than any press release ever could. If you've been watching this tournament and something felt off about how Clark was being used from the beginning, hit that like button right now, because we're about to connect every single dot. Let's start with the New Zealand game, because this is where everything crystallized into one clean picture. Final score, 101-46. Team USA wins by 55 points. And before anyone reaches for the post, but New Zealand isn't elite argument, that misses the actual point. You still have to execute for 4 full quarters to build a margin that large in international basketball. You still have to impose your pace, defend with consistency, and run your offense efficiently across every rotation. And the player most responsible for all 3 of those things was Caitlin Clark. Her stat line, 14 points, 6 assists, 2 steals in 23 minutes, but raw box score numbers only tell part of the story. The number that actually captures the whole game in one figure is the efficiency rating. Clark posted an 18, the highest individual efficiency score on the entire Team USA roster, not tied for first. Highest. By a margin worth noticing. That metric factors in everything: points, assists, rebounds, steals, all weighted together. So every steal she turned into a fast break layup is in there. Every mid-range jumper is in there. Every perfectly weighted pass to a cutting teammate is in there. The 18 is the whole story compressed into a single number, and nobody else on that roster touched it. Now here's the detail that Tibbetts' lineup decisions actually confirmed louder than any statistic. Clark played the most minutes on the entire Team USA roster that night. Think about what that means structurally. They had a 55-point lead at various points in that game. Tibbetts had a deep, available bench, and he kept sending Clark back out there. You do not do that if you are managing someone's confidence. You do not do that if you think a player is still fragile, still finding her footing, still needing to be eased in carefully. You do that because your offense is demonstrably better when that player is on the floor. That is the coaching decision telling you everything the post-game quotes don't. Let's run through the criticism checklist one by one, because every single line item just got checked off in real time. Defense first, the one that comes up constantly. The narrative has been that Clark is a liability on that end. That smart opponents can just target her and she becomes a problem. Against New Zealand, 2 steals, and both of them converted directly into fast break points. These weren't lucky deflections or balls that happened to bounce her way. These were active reads on passing lanes, anticipating the route, timing the jump, getting out ahead of the play in transition. That's a defender who knows exactly what she's doing. And when you zoom out across all 4 games in this tournament, Clark ranks top 5 on the entire Team USA roster in steals. That's not a defensive liability. That's a guard who is locked in and competing on both ends every time she steps on the floor. Next, the 3-point volume argument. The idea that all Clark does is stand beyond the arc and launch shots. across this qualifying tournament. She leads Team USA in scoring, and the majority of those points are coming from inside the arc. She is attacking the paint, finishing through contact, drawing fouls, and leading the team in free throw attempts. You do not lead a roster in free throws by parking yourself on the perimeter. You get there by driving aggressively into defenders and forcing the whistle. That's a physically active, assertive offensive game, and it directly contradicts the one-dimensional shooter narrative that her critics have been running for the better part of a year. Then there's the efficiency argument, the idea that she takes a lot of shots, but the percentages are suspect. Across this tournament, Clark leads Team USA in shooting percentage. She is not just taking the most shots, she is converting them at the highest rate on the roster. And here's the part that completely dismantles the volume shooter padding stats argument. She is simultaneously leading the team in assists. You cannot lead your team in both shooting efficiency and assists at the same time while playing the role of a selfish, shot-hungry scorer. Those two things are logically incompatible. When defenses collapse on her, she's finding open teammates for easy baskets. That's making her team better on every single possession. And then there is the number that ends every single one of these conversations in one shot. Clark doesn't just lead Team USA in plus-minus, she leads every player on every roster, across every country, in the entire FIBA 2026 qualifying tournament. Every country, every player in the entire field. When Caitlin Clark is on the floor, her team outscores the opposition by a wider margin than any other individual player at the entire event. Let that actually land. This is happening while she's returning from 8 months away with an injury. This is happening while she actively fought through a flu during the New Zealand game, which she confirmed after the final buzzer, noting that her body had been feeling genuinely strong despite everything. You cannot manufacture a plus-minus number that leads an entire international field. The math does not respond to narrative pressure. The math just tells you what happened. All of this is happening, and it is being tracked in real time. The Indiana Fever's own Instagram account has been documenting every single number coming out of this tournament. The organization knows what they have returning to Indianapolis. The numbers are public. The evidence is stacked. And yet the most important part of this story is not even the statistics. The most important part is what was happening on the sideline while those statistics were being produced, and who was conspicuously absent from it. Because if Clark is this dominant across 4 games, if she's leading the entire tournament field in plus-minus and breaking historic assist records, then why was she coming off the bench in the first place? Who made that decision? And more importantly, where is that person right now? Drop a comment right now and tell us, do you think USA Basketball made that coaching shift on their own terms? Or do you think the fan and media pressure after Puerto Rico forced their hand? Because the timeline here is something we need everyone's eyes on. To understand what happened on that sideline, you have to go back to Game 1 of this tournament, the Senegal game. Clark came off the bench, not as a starter. Off the bench, and delivered 17 points and 12 assists in just 19 minutes. One of the most efficient individual performances in FIBA women's qualifying history, produced by a reserve. So what was Kara Lawson's public message at the post-game press conference? That everyone needs to shine, not just Caitlin. That was the framing she chose after a record-breaking performance by her most talented player. Not, how do we maximize what we just saw? Not, how do we build the next game around this? The message was about distributing the spotlight evenly. Many of you watching that press conference in real time felt immediately that something was off about that framing. You were right to feel that way. And then came Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico came out in a 2-3 zone that was designed with one specific purpose: keep the basketball out of Caitlin Clark's hands. The correct coaching response to that defensive scheme is to attack it. Find ways to use Clark's passing ability to exploit the gaps that a 2-3 creates, get her more touches, let her orchestrate the offense against a defense specifically built around neutralizing her. Instead, Lawson maintained the same rotation. Clark stayed limited. The zone stayed in place without an adjustment. And online, The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Fever fan communities, basketball analysts, sports media figures across multiple platforms, all of them pointing at the exact same thing. The head coach appeared more focused on managing Clark's role than on winning the game as efficiently as her roster was capable of winning it. The backlash was specific, it was loud, and it did not fade quickly. And then, without a formal announcement, without an official explanation from USA Basketball, Nate Tibbetts, the head coach of the Phoenix Mercury, took over coaching duties for the Italy game. Lawson had been present for the first 2 games. Then, she simply was not. Tibbetts ran the team. Clark had a more prominent role. Italy lost by 34 points. By the New Zealand game, Tibbetts was still running everything, and Lawson's absence had shifted from notable to conspicuous. USA Basketball has not given anyone a straight answer about the circumstances. Not officially confirmed, but multiple sources in basketball circles have been floating different scenarios. One possibility being discussed is that Lawson stepped back voluntarily. Sensing that the mounting criticism was creating a pressure point she did not want to become the permanent face of. Another scenario is that USA Basketball quietly made the decision after the Puerto Rico backlash reached critical mass inside the organization. What is confirmed, and this part is sitting directly in the box scores for anyone to verify, is that the offense moved better without Lawson's substitution patterns. Clark was more involved without her rotation philosophy in place. Team USA went from squeaking past a zone defense to winning games by 34 and 55 points. That contrast is real, and it is documented. Before we continue, if our coverage has been your go-to source for what's actually happening in this league, consider joining the channel as a member. Your support is what makes it possible for us to keep digging into the stories the official channels are leaving unanswered. Now let's talk about the rotation shift that people are still piecing together, because it connects directly to one of the most watched storylines in women's basketball. Share this with anyone following the tournament, because the Angel Reese situation under Tibbetts is a system story with real implications. Reese came into this qualifying tournament with significant expectations. An elite interior presence, a physical rebounder, someone who brings size and toughness and can score around the basket. And those abilities are real. They're just most effective in a specific kind of system. Under Tibbetts, her minutes have been cut back noticeably. The contrast between how she and Clark are being deployed tells you exactly where this coaching staff believes Team USA's competitive identity needs to be built. But the Reese situation did not originate with Tibbetts taking over. In the early games, multiple analysts and observers watching closely began flagging a specific pattern. In moments where Clark was open and in rhythm, the ball would swing to Reese's area, and instead of delivering the pass, Reese would redirect, pulling the ball back or going a different direction. This happened across enough possessions, across multiple games, that it stopped reading like individual miscommunication and started reading like a consistent tendency. Fans noticed it, film analysts flagged it on social media, it kept appearing in game footage reviews. Whether this was intentional or a byproduct of timing and system confusion is not officially confirmed, but the breadcrumbs were consistent enough that they became part of the broader conversation about why Clark's numbers early in the tournament were not matching what everyone expected. Under Tibbetts' pace and space offensive philosophy, that dynamic has resolved itself by default. His system demands fast ball movement, guards initiating in transition, and constant spacing that keeps the defense spread. Reese's interior game, post-work, positioning battles, half-court sequences, is genuinely valuable in the right context. It just operates at a fundamentally different pace than what Tibbetts is building. The system sped up. Reese's minutes came down. The offense got more efficient. That's a system conversation, not a talent conversation. But the results are documented. While that shift was happening, the backcourt developing between Clark and Paige Beckers has quietly become the most dangerous element on this entire roster. Both of them create off the dribble. Both operate with elite court vision and decision-making speed, and there is a read and react intelligence that is becoming visible between them in live game situations. When one draws defensive pressure, the other consistently finds the right spot, whether it's a back cut, a corner three, or a trailing lane in transition. That kind of connection does not come from a week of practice. It comes from two high IQ players solving defensive problems together in real competitive situations and getting sharper at it with every shared possession. Tibbetts has been experimenting with a three-guard lineup that puts Clark, Beckers, and Kelsey Plum on the floor simultaneously. Three players who can all shoot from distance, all pass at a high level, and all create off the dribble, with Clark operating as the primary initiator, making the first read. Defenses have no clean answer for that combination. Team USA was converting from three at a remarkable clip across this tournament. And that spacing is exactly what opens up everything else Clark does as a facilitator. When the defense has to respect three shooters who can also pull up off the dribble, the lane opens, the passing angles open, and Clark's assist numbers reflect exactly that reality. Here is the angle that deserves more attention than it's getting. Everything Clark is building in this tournament, the command of a fast-paced offense, the playmaking reads at an international defensive level, the chemistry with elite backcourt partners, none of that stays inside the FIBA arena. That comes back to Indianapolis with her. The Indiana Fever are getting a version of Caitlin Clark, who just spent this tournament functioning as the primary engine of a pace and space offense, sharpening her point guard decision-making against international competition, and proving she can dominate across all 5 statistical categories while recovering from an 8-month injury absence and managing illness. The Fever's organizational tracking of every number out of this tournament is not just fan excitement. It is a franchise watching its centerpiece make a competitive leap in real time. And the Clark-Beckers connection has implications beyond this qualifying event. Both of them are established stars in women's basketball who are developing real on-court chemistry in live competitive situations. What they're building here, the instinctive reads, the pace, the spacing habits, that's a foundation that could show up in future international competition and potentially in how Clark approaches the playmaking demands of the Fever's next season. The full picture coming out of 4 games in this tournament is this. The injury excuse is gone. The health excuse is gone. The defensive liability excuse is gone. The volume shooter excuse is gone. The efficiency excuse is gone. And the coaching situation that was quietly suppressing the best player in women's basketball has shifted in a direction that the organization has declined to officially explain, but the box scores have fully documented. What happens next in this tournament, particularly the Spain game, which Clark identified as likely the hardest matchup they'll face, will add another chapter to a story that is very clearly still being written. If you are not subscribed yet, right now is the moment, because the Kara Lawson situation has not been officially resolved, the FIBA tournament is not finished, and every game Clark plays from here is more evidence that something significant has shifted in how this program is being built around her. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and we will break down the Spain game and what the complete tournament stat sheet tells us about Clark's trajectory heading into the Fever season. We'll see you in the next one.